taking on the Eagles and the Vikings facing off against the Seahawks. So with so many
The tournament begins, Kay.
Yes, we have some big questions that need to get answered. We've got the paddles in front of us with the team logos of these 6 teams in these big games. First big question for you guys. Which of these 6 needs a win most? Who needs a win?
Who needs it? Oh, man, I got a couple.
Fly, Eagles, fly. The Eagles need to win. If the Eagles are going to do it, if the Eagles have any shot of doing it, it has to start Sunday. It's already started because they've won 2 in a row. But look at this schedule for the Eagles. Philly goes to Dallas. Then Philly goes to L.A. Then Philly hosts a Texans team that has not lost since the Lincoln administration.
Hey,
really,
Peter.
that's what it is.
Love it.
The Eagles have an incredibly difficult road ahead. If they can win those games, they're alive. And furthermore, if they can win those games, they're going to be playing with juice coming into January. If you're coming off beating the Rams, the Cowboys, and the Texans, watch out, NFL. I wouldn't want to face this team in the playoffs either.
Trey, do they have to win all 3 of those games? They have the Bengals to end the year. Do they have to just win 2 of those 4?
They've got the Redskins at the end. They've got to go 2 Redskins. Now, they've got there's a whole issue as far as mathematics go. But if they lose to the Cowboys this weekend, Kay, they're pretty much out of this thing because it's going to be too hard of a road to climb.
Game.
Presidential administration timestamps get me out of bed in the morning. I love it. Well, these guys have not won a big game since the Herbert Hoover administration. We keep talking about the Vikings. We talk about them every week, and we wait, and we wait. And it's like Trent Dilfer said, you cannot lose games in the NFL and still win. You can't. We love you, Trent.
Right.
Guys, they're 2-3 in their last 5. They have not beaten a single team with a winning record. And yet I still sort of believe, because they just have so many good players. I mean, how many good players, great players the Vikings have? 12, 15. They are so loaded. And Kirk Cousins, we say it every week. Big game. This is why they pay you. Prime time. Let's do it. And I think they might have a surprise up their sleeve, but they need it bad, or we got to stop talking about them.
All right, well, the team that I'm talking about has only been good since the Trump administration, and that's the Chicago Bears.
You're right, Nate.
I'm looking at this team and the situation that they're in, obviously facing one of the best teams in football this weekend at home. You're still going to have to face the Vikings in Week 17. So in order to get to that game in great position, you got to win now. And it's the Windy City. What happens when everything gets windy? You got to anchor yourself down. And you got to bear down. Right now, they're in a position where they control their own destiny. You don't want to let this slip right through your fingers, and all of a sudden you're waiting at the end of the season looking at the scoreboard saying, I hope they lose, I hope they lose, I hope they lose, because they didn't handle business in the month of December. They need to win more than anybody. Not to mention their quarterback is talking about they're letting me throw as much as they're allowing me to. We don't even know if he's completely healthy. Trubisky is going to be the one that's going to get these guys through December, and I'm not sure where he's at physically. It's big time for these guys, big time.
I'll talk about the team that most presidents love. It is the Dallas Cowboys, and I will say that it's most important for them to win, because if they lose, the Eagles are first in the division, and they could be on the outside looking in. They've won 4 straight. People are believing in them. More importantly, people are scared to play them. As a fan base, as NFL fans in general, we're sort of rallying behind this team. After adding Amari Cooper, they look good on offense. They're great on defense. You can't lose a game to the Eagles, who do not look as talented as you. They don't look like they have as much momentum as you do. So for me, it's the Cowboys, because I just feel like the way that we see them will be totally shifted, not to mention the fact they'll be hanging out with the Panthers on the outside looking in. Next question. Which of the 3 road teams most likely to win? So here's who's traveling. The Eagles have to travel, the Rams have to go, and also the Vikings on a flight.
Go ahead, Nate.
I'll jump right in. I'm going with the Los Angeles Rams. You know, there was a narrative out there that Jared Goff wasn't that good on the road, and his team wasn't that good on the road. Guess what? These guys are pretty darn good on the road. They're 12-2 since Sean McVay has taken over. So, of course, they play just as good at home and on the road, and they're facing the Bears. The defense is strong, of course. I'm not going to be dismissive of what Khalil Mack and the rest of his buddy bring to the table, but I think you're being dismissive to what these guys bring to the table on the road. They scored 30 points in 10 out of the 12 games this year. So these guys, they can go out and play in the cold, they can play in the sun, they can play in the rain, they can play in the snow. It does not matter the conditions. The only condition that matters is the condition of their players. And if they're all healthy, if they're on the field at the same time, they're going to continue to do what they do. This is the best team in the NFL, and prove it once again this weekend.
Strong statement, Nate. I'm with you on this one. I'm gonna back up Burleson. I think the Rams win this game in Chicago, and I think this is their last game in cold weather. If they win this and win out the rest of the way, I talked about this earlier in the week. They play the Niners, they play the Cardinals, they play another home game against the Eagles, and then if they have home field advantage throughout the playoffs, that's a bye week, That's a divisional round game in LA, and that's also an NFC Championship game in LA. That might mean 8 straight weeks of warm, sunny LA weather. But you got to win this one first. You got to win this one and then hold serve and keep that #1 seed. I think the Rams come into Chicago. I think the Rams take care of business.
Might be a little nippy in Soldier Field, though, Peter. Aaron Donald, come on now.
No, stop.
Aaron Donald did not go to Pittsburgh and grow up in Western Pennsylvania. What cold weather is going to be? Yeah.
All right. I'm going back with these guys again. I'm going to say the Vikings are going to win at Seattle. And never mind for one hot second Kirk Cousins. I'm talking about the Vikings defense. We don't speak about them. It's been a while because it's always Cousins.
Yeah.
Dark secret about the Seahawks, they've played 2 top defenses this year. They played the Bears and they played the Chargers. They scored 17 points in each game and they lost to both, guys. They've played 2 defenses and lost to both. Remember the time we would celebrate Linval and Everson and Harrison and Xavier? They were practically co-hosts with us for a while. I want them to be back, and I think they will be. This will be the marquee game for the Vikings defense we've been waiting for.
Remember
I see your Vikings defense, and I raise you the fact that Seattle isn't the scariest place to play anymore. They have won their last 2 at home against the Niners and the Packers, but they're still 7-6 over the last 2 seasons. Kirk Cousins has to win this game. I think that's the vibe here. Cousins, we've seen it before. Remember 2015 with the Redskins? They start the season 5-7. Kirk Cousins goes on a roll, leads the team to 4 or 5 straight wins and the division title. That is this kind of game, and it has to happen on the road.
I like it.
Last question for right now. Which of these 6 teams has, this is really hard, the best offensive player?
Okay.
Man, this is tough. There's so many talented guys, but there's no more talented individual than Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is the most dominant player. And it's not just in the NFL. If we were asking this question in the month of September, maybe I'd pick up a different paddle. But this is the month of December. I talked about it earlier this week. His passer rating is the best since 1970. I'm talking best in the entire NFL. Only player that has had more wins since 2012 is Tom Brady in the month of December. You want to talk about absolute clutch? And not to mention, if he's talking in that locker room to his players, he has to be reminding them how it feels to win a championship, how it feels to make a December run, how it feels to go into the month of January. So for me, it is Russell Wilson. It's not just what he does on the field. It's also that experience and wisdom. That's a luxury that not a lot of these teams have. Because you can walk in that locker room and say, guys, sit down for a second. Let me tell you a story about the time I went to the Super Bowl.
Let me ask you,
Russell Wilson.
because you've been such a Russell Wilson supporter. Outside of Tom Brady, is there another quarterback you'd want right now in December than Russell Wilson?
Ooh.
I believe Russell Wilson isn't looked at as Aaron Rodgers is, and he has the same clutch gene and the same amount of Super Bowls. And we constantly talk about Aaron Rodgers as the best quarterback in football. It's because he's in the Pacific Northwest, tucked away in Seattle. We don't see him often. We don't talk about him often. We should talk about him more. When it's all said and done, I guarantee we'll celebrate him much more than what we're doing now.
I agree. It's hardware in this fact that we've seen him pull out magic when his back's against the wall. I'm so shocked you didn't go Todd Gurley. Like, I did not see that coming.
Gurley, to me, is an easy choice. I could easily say Gurley. I'm going to kind of spin it to who I think is most important to, and it's Ezekiel Elliott. I think right now, if you took Todd Gurley off the Rams, I think McVay could coach them to the playoffs. I really do. I think if you took Zeke off the Cowboys, I think they're a 5-11 team. And this is the guy who, if they're going to stare down Philly and beat them, it's going to be Zeke, number 21.
I'm going with you guys. I'm going with Russell Wilson as well. I just think the success in these games I'm so amazed with what the Seahawks are doing this season. This was not supposed to be the Seahawks season. It's supposed to be a rebuilding year, and here they are knocking on the door and barging down the door. Russell Wilson, he should be in the MVP conversation. He's been that good for them this year.
If you have to throw in one big game with one of these players, it's hard to argue that it's not Russell Wilson. I like Zeke Elliott a lot, but we want to hear from you guys as well out there watching on a Thursday morning.